Hi, my name is Lauren Rowe, and this is a project about my trip to Italy. I traveled to Italy over the summer with one of my best friends for the HHS350 requirement. I'm currently a nursing student, and I had a great time abroad. I spent 2 weeks in Naples for the actual program, and then a week after traveling with my friends. During the first 2 weeks, I worked in a refugee camp, and the last week I traveled to Rome and Florence. I had such an incredible time in Italy, and I can't wait to tell you about what I've learned. There are so many things that I learned while traveling abroad in Europe, but I'm going to talk about a few of the most important ones to me. The first thing I learned is when you're traveling, you have to embrace and immerse yourself in the new culture, meaning you have to be open to all of their cultural norms and to also participate in them. I immersed myself by drinking the local beer and eating all of the local foods such as pizza and fresh fruit, and it was amazing. The next thing I learned is to always say yes to new experiences. Say yes as much as possible, but remember to be safe also. I got to do so many extraordinary things because I said yes. I got to take a boat ride to an island off the coast of Italy. I explored a new castle, and I even swam in the Mediterranean Sea. All because I said yes. Another thing that I learned is to always stay calm, even when things go wrong. And I learned this because when I got to Italy, my bags did not show up. So I didn't have any of the things that I packed for those 3 days, and I was freaking out at first. But with the help of others, I was able to get everything back, and everything ended up being okay. The next thing that I learned is that it's okay to get lost, and in fact, it can be more fun than having a set plan. When exploring a small island off the coast of Italy called Ischia, my friend and I got lost, and we ended up discovering this beautiful private beach. The last lesson I learned is that there's always more than one way to do something. I think that this is one of the most important lessons to bring with you when you're traveling because people tend to think that their country's culture, ways, or anything is the only way to do something. And this is definitely not true. This lesson relates to global health because if you go to another country and try to improve their health system, you can't just knock on their door and say, change this, change this, change this. You need to incorporate their ways with your ways and let them know that their way is not wrong, there's just another way to do something. When I got to Italy, IVHQ assigned me and my friend to the refugee camp. The refugees had just arrived to Italy from Libya and thought they might have needed some medical help. So that's why they put us, nursing students, in the placement. We were so excited to work with these refugees, and we knew that they needed a special kind of care. There were 7 total volunteers, and we made our trek to the refugee camp, which was in Mar Chiaro, and it was a total of an hour-and-a-half commute. When we got there, we were welcomed by a ton of these refugee boys. They were all so sweet and welcoming. We quickly learned that they were all in really good health and they didn't need any medical care. So instead, for the next 2 weeks, we taught them English. This camp ended up not being a government set-up camp, but instead it was an emergency camp when these boys came to Italy on a boat. They didn't have many resources to help the boys, so they did what they could, getting food from local restaurants and such. The camp was all boys ranging from the ages of 12 to about 18. And most of them spoke French, their dialect from Africa, and also Arabic. And they had just started to learn Italian. They were so excited when we told them that we were American, because they've always seen things from America and really wanted to go there someday. So, of course, they wanted us to teach them English. So that's what we did for the next 2 weeks. We switched our gears to think more like teachers, and we started to come up with lesson plans that we could teach the boys every morning. We started with the alphabet, and once most of them got that down, we went on to some other basics such as colors, animals, and directions. The refugees boys had such a thirst to learn English, and so as the lessons went on, we made them harder and harder to what they wanted. Pretty soon they were forming sentences and able to say phrases. It was such an amazing experience being teachers to students who wanted to learn so badly. All the lessons were filled with laughter and smiles as we got closer to these refugee boys. On top of teaching them English, we played soccer with them, taught them games, colored, and anything just to have some fun with them. We ended up getting really close with all of these wonderful boys, and I think we really made a difference on their lives. The last few days were full of fun, but had sad tone because they knew that we had to leave soon. We took so many pictures and added each other on Facebook and promised to stay in touch. The boys were so thankful for all that we had taught them, but we wanted to do more. So one day we went out and bought a pair of sunglasses for every single kid at the camp. They fell in love when they found out what we had done. To this day, they still post pictures on Facebook with their sunglasses that we gave them. Also, most of the boys didn't have good shoes. They would only have flip-flops, and their flip-flops would break. So we ended up starting a GoFundMe to get every single one of the boys a good pair of shoes. We had a goal of raising $1,200, but ended up raising $1,760 for the boys. We were able to buy them each a pair of nice shoes and a couple of pairs of socks. We wanted to help them in every way possible. Saying goodbye was extremely hard, and most of the boys begged us to stay for longer, or asked us to even bring them back to America in our suitcases. We shed tears and gave many hugs and headed out. It was really hard to leave, but our hearts were happy because we knew that we'd helped them and had a life-changing 2 weeks. Here are a couple of things that I learned in Italy and would like to share with others. First is that Italians are very welcoming and they treat tourists very nicely, especially if you tell them you're from America. They love that you're there and trying to experience their culture and their way of life. Second is that the government is strained right now from all of the influx of these refugees from Africa and everywhere around Italy. The government is putting money into these refugee camps to help them, but it's not enough for the large amount of people who are traveling to Italy. The Italian government provides public health care to all of its citizens. Usually, the government is not strained with providing their citizens with health care. But since all these refugees are coming in, the government is at a lack of funds to help everyone. And the locals are starting to get annoyed with the refugees that are coming into their country. This brings me to my next topic about how there is racism in Italy. When I was in Italy, I saw some of the racism that occurs there. Right now, mostly much of the racism is directed towards these refugees who are coming in, and the Italians are thinking that they're using resources that should rightfully go to the locals. I experienced that the locals were uneasy around refugees and maybe not so willing to help them out. One big occurrence that I saw happening in Italy was that a refugee was refused service from emergency clinic. The details were foggy, but most people believe that it was because he was from Africa. He was refused care and ended up dying the next day. While I was there was a big protest against what happened and that everyone should be treated equally, no matter if they're a refugee or an Italian local. The next thing I learned is that in Italy, their daily life is slow-paced and more relaxed. Everyone gets their work done, but they're not as rushed or as stressed to get somewhere on time or get something done. For example, before going to work at the refugee camp, we always stopped for a cappuccino and talked for about 30 minutes. I really like this way of life, and I hope that America can learn a little bit from it. I know we all can be less stressed and maybe a little bit more relaxed in our daily life. The last thing that I discovered about the Italian culture is that they really focus on their family life and they're really loving towards each other. I saw many displays of affection, whether it was boyfriend, girlfriend, dad to daughter, or just anyone in the family. Here are some differences between the US and Italy that I learned while being abroad. The first is that a large majority of the Italian population smoke cigarettes. They smoke an insane amount compared to the US, and I think this is because smoking is so discouraged in the US. And in Italy, it is a part of their life. The second difference is that the Italian government provides public healthcare for all, whereas the US has privatized healthcare and does not have one overarching public healthcare. And lastly, the Italian government is providing a tremendous amount of support for the refugees that are coming in. They are providing them with camps, with food, water, and even giving them some spending money. And this is a lot more than the Americans have decided to do. So I think the US should take some tips from Italy and treat refugees better, provide them with more support, and also create a public health care for all. I believe that it is very important to travel with an open mind wherever you go. This idea of having an open mind when you travel is the same as having a global health perspective. They are the same thing because when you travel abroad, you want to leave behind any of your present bias so that you're able to understand the culture that you're immersing yourself in. It is so important to leave these biases behind so that you can fully understand the culture or any of the people that you're helping. And with this understanding, you can help them in the correct way that they need. Even if you're traveling just for pleasure, I think it is great to still have a global health perspective because it'll allow you to see the full truth behind things that are not clouded by your previous judgments. So please, if you're ever planning to travel, have an open mind like I did before I went to Italy. Thanks for listening to my experience abroad and for watching this video.